In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 4 most common problems that affect people's ability to improve their topspin forehand. Now, there's a lot of potential things that can go wrong, but to be honest, most of them don't matter. And this is where so many players make the mistake. I've made this mistake a lot of times, and I see coaches do this wrong a lot of the time as well. Everyone is chasing shiny objects. They're tweaking and changing and messing around with this and that, and they're working on things that do not matter. Because if you don't have these 4 things down, if you've got one of these 4 problems, you're never going to be able to develop your forehand in the way that you want. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to go through them in order because you need to work on them in order. I'm going to explain the simple solutions and how you address them, but sometimes those simple solutions don't work. So at the end of the video, I'm going to explain the more complex answer of why you might be struggling with a lot of these problems. I hope you find this video helpful. If you do, it'd be awesome if you could give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to my channel and get the notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of my videos. Okay, so the first problem, the first place that things go wrong for people is not preparing early enough. And this is very common. Obviously, to generate topspin, we've got to meet the ball out in front. We've got to go up the back of the ball. In order to do that, we've got to start the swing early enough. Now, if you're not prepared in time, it's impossible to make that happen. What you see from a lot of people is if a coach is feeding them in the same spot and the ball's in front, they're often okay at doing this preparation. When things start to get more tricky, is when there's a bit more thinking involved, and especially when there's a little bit more movement involved. People struggle to prepare as they move. So the simple solution to this is to practice it. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the footwork patterns and the things involved and the exact way to do the unit turn, but you want to rehearse the different movements. So you want to practice moving to wide balls. So as you move out to the wide ball, practicing your unit turn, so then when you get there, you can start the swing at the right time. You want to practice moving to short balls. As you're moving to that short ball in the last few steps, you've got to be making sure that you're prepared, so then you can start your swing at the right time. Another common place where it goes wrong is the inside out forehand. And this is what I was doing horribly wrong when I'm learning to play left-handed. I was doing the movement, I was getting in position for my inside-out forehand, and I'm still standing here, and then I'm really rushed, and I end up hitting the ball late, and things don't work. So when you're working on the inside-out forehand, you've got to make sure that you're getting that unit turn as you're moving your feet. So really doing this preparation, working on it and rehearsing it. Same for the backwards movement, making sure that you're preparing as you're moving. So if you rehearse that over and over again, then when it gets into the game situation, it's a little bit easier to focus on it and really think about preparing on time. The second most common problem that you find with people that affects their topspin forehand is not being in position, but really getting too close to the ball. In theory, you can be too far away, and you do see that sometimes, but I'm working in my 3rd different country, and I've seen thousands of players play over a number of years, and getting too close to the ball is one of the most common mistakes, and it ruins stroke mechanics. In order to hit an optimized topspin forehand, you need to be a certain distance from the ball. It's just the way it works. You've got to be far enough away so that you can swing out to the ball and just use optimal biomechanics. If you get too close to the ball, it doesn't allow you to generate spin efficiently. And getting too close to the ball also causes a bunch of problems that come after it, which I'll talk about in a moment. So the solution to not being too close to the ball or to being further away from the ball is firstly to focus on it. So when you're on court, notice whether you're getting too close to the ball and then think about keeping your distance. Now, I made a video a couple of weeks ago about how to improve things, but what you want to do is talk to yourself in a positive way. You don't want to go, I'm too close, I'm too close. You want to give yourself a positive instruction. Okay, stay further away from the ball. Stay further away from the ball. Keep your distance. So encourage yourself to do the right thing like that. The way that you prepare can also be used to help this. So one of the things that you'll hear a lot of the time from coaches is if you're doing your unit turn, the non-hitting hand is going to go across with it, and this actually acts as a marker. So if you keep your hand up and you try and make sure the ball is outside your hand, that's going to help you to gauge this distance so that you can keep it a little bit further from your body. Obviously, if the ball is in here somewhere, You know, the ball's there, your racket's here, it's going to be in close, it's really going to break things down. So being aware of the distance and thinking about it is going to be the first thing that you need to do, and potentially marking that distance is going to be the second thing. Now what you want to do is practice this with the different footwork that we've just talked about. So as you're moving to the wide ball, thinking about the distance, especially on that inside out ball, thinking about getting the distance, because it's very common for people to do that and then get jammed in there. And again, when you're moving back, when you're moving forwards, just making sure you're the right distance away, because without it, it breaks down the mechanics of the stroke. The third most common problem, and this is one again that so many people struggle with, is starting the swing late. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, in order to generate topspin efficiently, we've got to meet the ball out in front. It's just the way the mechanics of the stroke work. If you're thinking about the more modern style of forehand, there's some kind of unit turn, there's some kind of racket drop, there's some kind of racket lag. The racket's going to come down and up the back of the ball. If you don't start the swing early enough, if you kind of look how far out in front of my front leg the racket is, if you don't start the swing early enough, you don't have time to do all this stuff and come up the back of the ball in order to generate the topspin. So think the contact point, if you end up being back here somewhere because you don't start the swing early enough, you don't have time to do it, you end up kind of forcing the stroke and trying to kind of force up the back of it. So it can be done, but it just makes it really hard to generate and optimize your forehand. Now, one thing you want to be aware of with this, and this is what really used to cause me problems, if I get too close to the ball, it then makes it really hard to get the right timing and kind of to judge things that way. So just make sure that one of the first two problems isn't causing the timing problem. Obviously, if you're preparing late and you're getting too close to the ball, they might be the reasons that you're not timing the ball well. So you've got to make sure you're doing them first. But providing you've got those bits down, then you've got to find ways to break any bad habits that you've got in terms of timing. So a lot of the time when people are tense and tight and they're gripping the racket too hard, that can cause them to swing late. Lack of footwork can cause players to move late or to swing late. So often staying on the balls of your feet, being nice and light on your toes can really help to improve the timing. And then thinking about different cues and ways that you can remind yourself to swing earlier. So this is about testing things out and finding what works for you. So if you're focusing on a specific thing and you keep on hitting the ball late, think about something different. So maybe instead of thinking about dropping my racket, I'm going to think about driving with my back leg. And you might have to play around with this on different types of stroke or different types of shot. So practice it with a low hard ball. When do I need to start my swing? Practice it with a high ball. When do I need to start my swing? And be prepared to make mistakes. Doing the same thing wrong over and over again is a surefire way not to learn. So be okay with making mistakes, messing up the timing if it means going a little bit too early. But that's problem number 3. Starting the swing too late, hitting the ball too late, and not being able to optimize mechanics in that sense. Which brings us on to the fourth and final common mistake, and that's going to be lifting your head on contact, losing visual stability on contact. At the end of the day, whether the ball lands in or out comes down to the angle of the racket face at the moment of contact relative to the swing path and the swing speed. So it's all about controlling this racket head. The way that this works within our body, our visual system is our most dominant system. So if we have got our eyes focused on roughly that contact point, it's going to give us the best possible chance of controlling our wrist and doing what we need to do. If we lift our head, it's going to decrease our chances of controlling our wrist. And I have seen this go wrong for so many people. I've seen coaches just tear players' strokes apart when the problem was they were just lifting their head, and that's why they were missing the shot so frequently. Now remember what's come before this. You've got to prepare early, you've got to be the right distance for the ball, you've got to start the swing on time, and then you've got to keep your head still on contact through the ball so you can increase the control of your racket head. Another problem that I struggled with on my right hand, and then again initially on my left hand, was getting too close to the ball, and because I was too close to the ball, it was causing me to lift my head. So you've got to address the first things first, because you don't want to spend a whole bunch of time working on keeping your head still if the real problem is that you're too close to the ball, and that's why you can't do it. So problem number 4, keeping your head still on contact. This one is just one that you've got to work on, you've got to focus on, you've got to drill it over and over again. So you get the other bits down, and then you're just reminding yourself, just keep your head still, keep your head still, keep your head still, in that positive way. So you're not going to tell yourself to stop lifting your head, you're going to tell yourself to keep your head still, to watch it onto contact, whatever cue works for you. Okay, so they're the 4 most common problems that you see with people's topspin forehand and the ways that you can try and work on addressing them. But sometimes that isn't enough. Sometimes you need to dig a little bit deeper, because what all those problems have in common is the visual system. Often the visual system doesn't allow players to do those things. So if you want to think about preparing early, yes, you've got to know what to do, but if you can't see clearly, you can't see accurately, you can't see well at the length of a tennis court, it's going to be really hard to react fast enough to prepare early. If you can't accurately judge where the ball's going to go, so you're going to be watching your opponent, if you can't accurately detect the direction, the distance, the type of spin and those type of things, it's really hard to prepare and set up in the right position. Same thing when it comes to judging the distance, and this is what caused me problems for so long. I was always too close to the ball, and I had arguments with coaches about it. One guy especially really thought I wasn't listening to him. It's not that I wasn't listening to him, I just couldn't judge the distance accurately, so I kept on getting too close to the ball. If it was dropped, obviously I could do it, but then when you're playing a point, you can't compensate for that issue. So if you can't judge distance and depth accurately, it's going to cause huge problems. And the same thing for the timing. Your ability to start your swing at the right time is completely dependent on your ability to judge distance and depth. It's completely dependent on your spatial awareness and how you judge those things. And then when it comes to the visual stability on contact, keeping your head still, we've got specific reflexes that enable us to do that. So if you've tried everything, you keep on trying to keep your head still, keep on trying to keep your head still, and you can't make it work, it might mean that the reflex that allows it to happen just isn't working at the level you need it to hit the forehand in the way that you want. This is just the reality of the way things work, and that's why I've created a free Tennis Vision starter program to help you out with this stuff. There's a link in the description. If you click on that link, it's going to allow you to download this free program and start to work on things. Or if you just want to get as much help as you can, this is what I do with tennis players. I help them to ask the question why. Why is it that I can't do what I can't do? If you keep trying to resolve a problem technically over and over again, or a timing issue over and over again, and you just can't resolve it, there's probably something that's going on within your body that's preventing you from doing it. And there's normally a way to address it, and that's what I help players with. So if you would like a little bit more additional help, there is a link down in that description that's going to allow you to schedule a free chat with me so I can learn more about your game and see if there is a way to help. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could give me that thumbs up. If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll try and get back to you as quick as I can.